respected principals or teachers, and actually elder brothers, sisters, and then young brothers, sisters. Whenever I meet people, I always look fundamental level. There, we are same human being. Mentally, emotionally, physically, we are same. And then, most important, we all have same human brain. Great potential. And also sometimes this sophisticated, great potential, sometimes it creates more problem, more suffering. But basic human nature is more compassionate. The way, you see, we born, according some scientists, after birth, next few weeks, simply mother's physical touch is major factor for proper development of the brain. Then some scientists, quite well-known scientists, you see, they show us, see they are sort of experiment. Very young age, child, age 3 to 3, 4 year old. She showed them some kind of cartoon. In it, you see, two sort of children play helping each other. One negative, harming each other. So the young child, very young, 2, 3, 4 year old, their natural sort of reaction when they saw positive, helping each other, they sort of express joy. And then when you see they saw negative way, so then these scientists is telling us basic human nature is more compassionate. It is quite true. We are a social animal. So any social animal, even other animals or birds, which you see their individual survival depend on community, biologically, they have a certain sort of tendency, you see, the sense of community. And mentally, which mind or emotion bring together is love, affection. Anger, jealousy, because apart, separate, create sort of separation or distance. So therefore, since we are social animal, biologically, we equipped, you see, a sense of sort of community. Genuine sense of community means sense of concern of others' well-being. So there is possibility this marvelous brain, intelligence, combine that as the feeling, sense of concern of others' well-being, then our intelligence, our marvelous brain can be constructive. So therefore, in spite of the many troublemaker on this planet, not only in the past, but even today. These, as far as education or brain is concerned, they are very marvelous. Very sophisticated brain and very good education. Right? Or, highly educated. However, as I mentioned before, if we make some attempt and a proper plan, the way to educate humanity, because of basic our sort of potential and basic nature, we can make more compassionate humanity. That's my fundamental belief. The problem, I really feel, I always talking in different other countries also, I talking, the existing modern education is very much oriented about material value. So not adequate education about warm-heartedness. And in education, you see, talking, or say the moral ethics, but often based on religious faith. Then religion, wonderful. All major religious tradition, wonderful. I very much appreciate, you see, the students, you see, there's some kind of interfaith sort of prayer. Wonderful. All major religious tradition. Now quite warm. So all major religious tradition, in spite of different philosophical views, basically two categories, theistic religion, non-theistic religion. Big differences, but all major religious tradition, and both category, you see, main teaching or main sort of practice is practice of love. And you see, in order to practice love effectively, you also need practice of tolerance, practice of forgiveness. And for that, you also need self-discipline and contentment. All major religious traditions, you see, carry these teachings. In the philosophical aspect, you see differences there. As I mentioned earlier, some major religious traditions say there is creator. Non-theistic religions such as Jainism, Buddhism, and one part of Sankhyaism, no concept of creator, but rather self-creation. So differences. When we see these differences, then ask, what's the purpose of these different sort of philosophy? Purpose is the same. For example, theistic religion, in order to increase our ability, practice of love, the concept of creator. Creator, infinite love. So ultimately, we created by such sort of the infinite love, right? God, infinite love. So each of us, each of the creature of God have some kind of spark, some part of spark of God. So that give us more self-confidence and more willingness to practice love which God give us. God himself, you see, infinite love. According to Christianity, or Judaism, Zoroastrian, Muslim, most of the religion who accept Creator, who sort of fundamentally believe Creator, you see, that philosophy, very, very powerful. On one occasion I sort of discussed one Christian monk who spent many years in India. Now I think no longer. I asked him, if you accept the previous life, and what's wrong? Then he told me, this very life created by God. So that concept, very, very powerful. This very life created by God. So, you see, you develop some kind of very close feeling with God, with Creator. Intimacy is where? Intimacy. Like our own sort of father. Very close feeling. More intimacy sort of feeling, more willingness to follow God's path. Is practice of love. And then, entire 7 billion human beings, look, all come from same source, same Father, God. If you truly believe that, if you practice that, no basis of killing each other. Clear? So wonderful sort of, what's a very powerful sort of concept. Then non-theistic, such as Jainism, Buddhism. This is self-creation. If you do good, you get a benefit. If you harm others, hurt others, if you create more problem, more suffering others, you have to face negative consequences. So everything depends on yourself. For example, Buddha stated, you are your own master. So your future depends on yourself. Buddha stated that. Buddha is to consider himself as a teacher. Just show the path. If you do this, you get benefit. If you do this, you get suffering. So that also is a very good sort of, method to develop discipline, self-discipline. Self-discipline, not by force or order, but voluntarily. For that, you see, once you know the pros and cons are there. Pros and cons. Certain action may bring immediate satisfaction, but long run harmful, then restrain. Certain action for temporary may be difficult, but long run benefit, then you should follow that. So self-discipline out of awareness, long-term consequences, then the self-discipline comes voluntarily. So like that. So therefore, the different sort of philosophical views is a different method, different way of approach. It is necessary. 1,000 years in this planet, you see, there are people who have different mental disposition. So therefore, we need, you see, different sort of way of approach or method. So therefore, you see, all major religious tradition, really wonderful. However, you see, now today, 4 billion human beings, one religious tradition will not cover all. So we need different religious tradition. Very helpful. So in order to utilize each religious sort of potential to serve humanity, harmony is very essential. Now that is one of India's ancient tradition. On the basis of ahimsa, respect to all religions. Now today, this great nation, all major world religious traditions live together. Occasionally some problem can there. That's understandable. Among about billion population, some mischievous people always there. I think somehow it's God created that. So we can't believe to God. So there, God very kindly give us free will, right? Free will. So in any way, some mischievous people are always there. But basically, I think in this country, I think religious harmony, not only modern India, but ancient time, since ancient time, it's a different religious tradition developed in this country. Like Sanghyasm, I think the earliest, over 3,000 years. Then Jainism, Buddhism, and some other sort of branch of, ancient Indian tradition, non-Buddhist, different traditions. Then Zoroastrianism come, or Judaism come, Christianity come, and Muslim come. And later, another sort of, tradition, Sikhism developed. So, beside homegrown religion, all major religious traditions are established here. I often admire the small community, the Parsi community, who follow Zoroastrianism, mainly concentrated in Bombay. Their population less than 100,000. Completely free. They carry their own sort of puja or their own sort of traditions. No fear. Like I think General Manik Shah, also I think the Parsi, and the Tata, also Parsi. So that small community, I think really from that community, some individual really make sort of great service to this country, isn't it? Like that. So this is, I think, greatness of India. All major religious traditions of the world live together. So, such interfaith, that's a wonderful, wonderful. So, young brothers, sisters, preserve 1,000-year-old tradition of religious harmony is something very important. Not only interest for this country, but the whole world. India should be example. Different traditions live together in spite of different philosophy. Particularly nowadays, in the name of religion, very sad things happening, killing, more dividing humanity. So such period, India's 1,000-year-old tradition of religious harmony is very, very essential. Whether you individually believe religion or not, as an Indian, you must make effort or propagate the spirit of religious harmony. Clear? Now, in spite of all the different religious traditions, carry a message of love, compassion. It cannot cover entire 7 billion human beings. According to some sort of survey, over 1 billion human beings are non-believer. So here, since they have no interest about religion, about faith, so they also sometimes, you see, no interest about practice of love or compassion. Now, how to educate these people the importance of affection, compassion? If we rely or based on religious faith, then it won't work. Now here again, India's tradition, secular. Modern India, when you got independence, India's constitution itself, you see, based on secular concept. Because India, multi-religious nation. So, according to Indian understanding about secular is respect all religions. In the West, some people told me, some my Christian friend, some Muslim friend, when I talk secular, they're a little bit, they're reluctant. They got the impression secular concept and atheism, some kind of, you see, close. According to Indian understanding, secular, not at all some kind of distance from religion, but respect all religion. And also, you see, respect non-believer. Then, and actually, the concept of secular ethics, I feel very much based basic human nature, as I mentioned earlier. Child, no religious faith, but some kind of tendency, positive response, the appearance of love, and a negative sort of reaction to negative appearance, as I mentioned earlier. So therefore, and then also, as a matter of fact, we all 7 billion human beings born from mother. So our life starts from the mother's affection, or survived with our parents' affection. If mother abandoned, you can't survive. Look, other animals, birds, and the youngsters, you see, taken care by their parent, particularly mother, till they become independent. Independence rare. Like that. So we also like that. So the experience when we were very young, affection from our mother, from our parent, our friend, that experience really absorbed in our blood. Therefore, any person who's surrounded by love, affection, physically also much healthier. Again, some scientists say constant anger, hatred, fear, actually eating our immune system. Other hand, more compassionate mind give us inner strength, self-confidence, that reduce fear, reduce anger. As a result, our mind can remain calm. That's very important for good health. Now here, a number of young girls, young boys, sometimes I half joke, half serious. You see, the marriage, say marriage should take place on the basis of inner beauty, not external beauty. Sometimes I jokingly telling, the young female used to spend a lot of money for their cosmetic. Yes, external beauty, important, brings more attraction. But that alone, no guarantee happy marriage or long-lasting marriage. A little bit sort of excited and hurriedly sort of decide to marry. Then, due to lack of inner beauty, after 1 week or 1 month or year, start fighting, quarrel. So therefore, here I often mention one story. In early 60s, one Tibetan government official, monk official, eventually he disrobed. That I know him, a very trusted sort of official. So after he disrobed, I teased him, "Oh, your wife, not that much attractive." So then his response is, "Yes, external, not much attractive, but inner person, wonderful." So that means inner beauty. So then I have nothing to argue with him. So therefore, and friendship, as a social animal, you see, we need friendship. In order to bring friendship, trust is the key factor. In order to develop trust, mutual respect, sense of concern of others' well-being, that is there, then trust comes. No matter you powerful person or very rich person, lack of inner sort of value, a little bit sort of suspicion and jealousy, even husband and wife, a little bit sort of distance or distrust. How can that family be happy family? Family economically may be poor, but full of trust. Then that family be very happy family. So now scientists, as I already mentioned, the scientific research, now mainly in America, you see some scientists actually carry some experiment as a pilot project. You see, group of people, you see, training about, the practice of love, affection, or warm-heartedness. Before that program start, they check blood pressure and amount of stress. Then, after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, then again, you see, check blood pressure. Their blood pressure much reduced. Amount of stress much reduced. As a result, person become much happier. Then, not only they themselves to say happier, but then their interaction with their sort of friends, much more happier. So now my point is, according India's 1,000-year-old tradition of secularism, on that basis, you see, we can teach humanity, irrespective whether believer or non-believer, or among the believer, this faith or that faith, you see, no problem. As a human being, you see, we can teach, we can educate on the basis of scientific finding and our own common experiences and common sense. That, I think, now we need. Existing education, as I mentioned earlier, more oriented about external values or material value. So through that kind of education, eventually, the person's sort of way of life, more because of the materialistic sort of life and materialistic culture. In material value, no question of ethics, moral ethics. Ethics very much related with mind, or how should I say, heart. So now, since few years, with help of some scientists, some educationists, we, including some Indian professors, some universities, professors, you see, we already are working, making one such a curriculum about secular ethics, which can fit in secular education field, which can be universally acceptable. So I'm hoping next 1 or 2 years, I think that drafting draft, you see, can be available. So then, consider this is something not sort of what's the compulsory sort of study, but firstly, you see, few schools, you see, introduce that, and then look what is effect, what is result. If result after say 3, 4, 5 years, if result are good, then sort of one sort of class, then more class, one school, 10 schools, 100 schools, then can be utilized. These are not easy. I think experiment is very, very important. So that I would like to share here. And then finally, on this planet, education, or 7 billion humanity, education is key factor. You can see those nations, better education, more development. So education is very, very important. And also, you see, I usually use mentioning the generation. And firstly, I think the 20th century inspired a lot of sort of new sort of innovation, technology, and science, and medicine in many fields. However, that century become century of violence, bloodshed. According some historian, they say in 20th century, over 200 millions of people killed through violence. And also use nuclear weapon. You see, billions of dollars or money is spent on destructive sort of power. If that really brought new good shape of this planet, and then there's some sort of reason to justify that immense sort of violence, but that is not the case. So beginning of this 21st century, even this very moment, we are quite peaceful, quite pleasant here. I think especially in Delhi now, the monsoon has stopped and winter very cold, not yet come, so quite pleasant now, isn't it? Quite pleasant, quite peaceful. But this very moment, same human being dying or killing. Very unfortunate. There are some cases, religious faith causing these sort of problems. So this sort of unthinkable sort of event of violence, these are symptoms of the past mistake, past negligence. So now in order to bring better world, peaceful world, not by order, not by weapon or military force, but through education and develop sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. That we can do if we properly plan and make effort. So here I want to say, I always mention the generation of 20th century and generation of 21st century. Now principals, professors, and Kasade, most of them are generation of 20th century. Me also, now my age, now nearly 80 years old. So I certainly belongs to 20th century. Now those people, now young, bright boys and girls, you are generation of 21st century. When I ask age, some say 15, 16. One boy, he say 16-year-old, but already some mustache. So you are, but still you are 16-year-old, so you belongs to the 21st century, a generation of the 21st century. So I would like to ask those young people whose age below 20, raise hand. Oh, very good. So you are truly the generation of 21st century. So 21st century, now about 14 years passed, right? The major portion of 21st century yet to come. So past is past. Nobody can change that. I think according to theistic religion, even God cannot change past. Already happened. So possibility is future. If we, with vision, with determination, I think we can change our future. So therefore, please, the generation of the 21st century, please think seriously. And now, I think only your own nation or your own community. I think that outdated. Global economy beyond because of national boundary or religious boundaries. And then global warming. Whole world effect. Environmental issue. So now time come. Think. Humanity. In that respect, I think India I think most populated nation is people's population, China. The second, India. I think one point, I think nearly 1.1 or 2 billion. Now Indian population, isn't it? China, 1.3 or 4 billion. So some say eventually Indian population may greater than Chinese population. Some say that. I don't know. So in any way, two most populated nation. So see, your thinking, I think makes differences on this planet. So please think. 7 billion human beings. I think India have great potential to make certain significant contribution on this planet. Firstly, ahimsa, concept of ahimsa. Secondly, religious harmony. Then furthermore, one of my critics, as a result of now 55 years remain in this country as a refugee. I often used to telling, firstly, now I myself consider as a messenger of ancient Indian thought. That's ahimsa and religious harmony. Then, secondly, I consider myself as a son of India, because one time I met some group of Chinese reporters or media, some from America, some from I think Hong Kong, like that. So then one Chinese, a little bit seriously, asked me, why you describe yourself as a son of India? I think he felt some political reason. I might have a political reason, mentioned that. Then I told him, look, my brain, this sort of certain knowledge here, come from Nalanda. I always describe myself as a student of Nalanda tradition. So Nalanda in India. Most of the Nalanda masters, which we study text, I think almost them, wrote by Nalanda masters. So my brain, every cell of my brain filled by Nalanda thought. Then this physical, I think when I met, I think a meeting that, I think 4 or 5 years ago. So then I told, this physical, last 50 years, survived by Indian dals, Indian rice, Indian chapati. So now physically or mentally, now I truly become a son of India. So then he understands, you see that? Oh, not sorry. Nodded, yes. His serious sort of face then become, more normal. Like that. So it is true. And then, and also, I think, as a matter of fact, I'm longest guest of Indian government. So, as a gratitude, I have some criticism. That's, you Indian, now too much attention about modern sort of technology, modern sort of way of life, these things. Some my Indian friend, expressing to me, American culture invasion. However, you have very strong your own culture heritage. So, I think, although this is not serious, I think kasa. Tal soju kasa. Tal soju kasa. What do you call it? Hair dyeing. What do you call it? Hair. Oh, different color, yellow color. I think among the Japanese more, and Chinese more. India, I think less. So you still, oh. Now some Tibetan also now make you see their color of hair is yellow. But they cannot make you see big nose. So I think in India, I found, because of your 1,000-year-old strong cultural heritage here. But now here, when we talk about Indian culture, not just external something or songs or these or what's it, they dance or these or dress. No. Real Indian culture here, inside. Brain and heart here. Please pay more attention about this deeper level of India's culture. That is very relevant to today's world. If young people, these people, young people, if you really pay more attention about 1,000-year-old India's sort of deeper level of culture, or knowledge, I often, you see, as a result of over 30 years, my sort of a series of dialogue with modern scientists, mainly 4 fields: cosmology, new biology, neurobiology, then physics, particularly quantum physics, then, for example, the quantum physics, or my friend, the Raja Ramana, nuclear physicist, once he told me he found the concept of quantum physics in some Nagarjuna's writing, which about 2,000 years ago. He found that. So he, as an Indian, he feels very proud. Quantum physics in the world, something new. But this country, 2,000 years ago, already developed quantum physics sort of theory or concept. So ancient Indian really, I think, fully utilized about our brain. Modern Indian, I think, more attraction about external beauties. So now please think more seriously. Combination, modern education and 1,000-year-old India's knowledge about deeper level of reality, external, such as quantum physics, quantum theory, and another, our mind. The knowledge about consciousness in this country, highly developed. So we can see in Buddhist psychology, sort of Buddhist text, a lot of explanation about emotion and a lot of explanation how to deal these emotions, which over 30 years, my sort of dialogue with scientists, now they're really showing genuine appreciation, genuine interest about these sort of knowledge, this information. So that's India's sort of treasure. And meantime, in ancient time, Buddhists, non-Buddhists, both field a lot of sort of explanation about mind, about emotion. So ancient Indian psychology, highly developed. So compare ancient Indian psychology, the modern psychology, is something like kindergarten level. Really, I found that. So please, now the younger people, now our older friends, brothers, sisters, now time come, relax. Now these young people, generation of 21st century, please pay more attention, more seriousness, study ancient Indian sort of knowledge about mind. This is very important. And the secular basis is simply academic subject, not a religious subject. Clear? Last over 30 years, my dialogue with scientists never discuss about Buddhist concept. Simply about mind, about emotion, about a particle, including quantum physics, like that. So we can make a distinction among ancient Indian knowledge. One, science. One part, philosophy. One part, religion. Just yesterday, the International Hindu Conference, I also mentioned these ancient Indian sort of psychologists. So the spiritual sort of organization or leaders should pay more attention for study. They simply carry rituals or recite some mantra and put some color here. It's not sufficient. Must pay attention, deeper level of ancient Indian knowledge. Like that. So, now question and answer. Now I will sit there.
Your Holiness, one of the questions that has come up is, in this age of competition, where many of us are competing for limited resources, is it possible to balance values with competition? Is it possible to balance values with competition?
Sense of competition. I think there are two. Now again, according ancient Indian sort of psychology, I think many emotions sometimes looks, you see, a little sort of negative, but due to other factor. For example, anger itself negative, but out of sense of concern of others' well-being. So anger motivated by compassion is a positive anger. Similarly, self-centered sort of attitude. Well, self-centered is all right. I think no. I think the ego, a strong self, sense of strong self. Here also two things. Generally, you see, sense of strong self, and which lead, bully other, exploit other, that kind of sense of strong self is wrong. Another sense of strong self, basis of will, determination. I am going to serve them. I am going to make every effort to overcome these problems for well-being of sentient being, well-being of others. We need tremendous sort of willpower. So here, we need sense of strong self. That is positive. So similarly, now competition. It's a competition, you see, out of sort of just for your own interest and create some hindrance for others sort of progress. That's wrong. But other sort of sense of competition, while other also, you see, because of pushing, go forward, and you yourself also, you see, try to be top. That's positive. So, in the material field, I don't know. Mental level, as I mentioned earlier, you see, like that, we can make a distinction due to other factor of motivation or emotion, like that. Good, oh, okay. So that later, you see, the second part, or the second type of competition, It's out of sense of concern of others, in order to show them, in order to sort of pushing them. You see, you try to be also, you say, high. That's very good.
Thank you. Can anger be expressed in a peaceful way?
I think I already mentioned, out of genuine sense of concern. And then sometimes, little sort of, what's the irritated mind, it's okay. I think sometimes it's a good teacher who really taking care about the whole life of student. Then sometimes, you see, may lose little sort of irritation. If student, like myself, when I study, very lazy student. So is it too much lazy student? Sometimes need, isn't it? So my tutor, till I completed all my study, he almost never shows smile towards me, always something like that. So out of my fear, with respect, sometimes it's helpful to carry more effort, study. One sort of story. When I was very young, I think maybe 7, 8 years old, so, one sort of tutor, you see, a few tutors. One tutor, you see, I know because, you see, he was a member of search party, so reached my village. So I recognize, you see, that person's name or like that. So since then, I know him. So later, you see, he also, you see, carries some sort of teaching to me, mainly reading at that time. It's very, very young. So since I know him, he also very, very sort of always play with me. So one occasion, this occasion, I should read, and I sort of jump on his shoulder. Then, you see, tell him, you should read. So later, you see, that tutor, you see, told another tutor, oh, this young Dalai Lama, really very clever. Look at your face. So if you see, very gentle or very sort of friendly, he may take advantage. So you should remain quite the serious face. So like that, sometimes you see, good teacher, not just give sort of lesson or sort of the proper explanation, with sense of concern of their whole remaining life. Then some mistakes, some sort of reluctance, you see, come, or laziness or something happen, then, you see, because of serious concern about their whole life. So then sometimes may show a little bit sort of negative face. That's good, isn't it?
What is your favorite game?
Although as a monk, Buddhist monk, not sort of also not permissible way, permissible. But sometimes I do little. Firstly, I learned ping pong, table tennis. In Peking, 1954-55, one occasion, I play with Chuale because I felt I can win, because his right hand is something wrong, so he cannot play fully. So I expected I can win, so I play with him. Like that. Otherwise, you see, not much. Okay.
What do you think of Hindi films? Do you watch TV or films, Bollywood or Hollywood?
In the early 60s, in the early 60s, yes, sometimes I used to went to cinema to see some film. But then gradually, not much interest. Only documentary, 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 like Discovery. I think many years I sort of have interest to look to watch, particularly the nature, the animals. We can learn many things from animals. They are very honest. Anyway, very honest. Then last few years, no, I'm not sort of using, you see, the television or not watching television or these sort of film. I have not much interest. And sometimes with the film, too much sexy thing, and also violence. That's not good. I think that, without notice, I think impact in young mind. That's my view. Okay.
Since millions of people around the world worship Buddha, was he a god?
No, Buddha, not God. As I mentioned earlier, Buddhism, not theistic. So, Buddha originally like us, ordinary sentient being, then eventually, through his own effort or practice, he became Buddha. So he also, mentioned each of us, Buddha nature, the consciousness, the grosser level of consciousness, more subtle level, and innermost subtle level. That's quite interesting now. You see, now I think over 50 years in India, I think 30 cases, person after death, clinically dead, heart beating stop. So circulation, blood, brain stop. So clinically dead. But the body remain very fresh. Sometimes 1 week, including my own senior tutor, 13 days, his physical remain fresh. I think a few years ago, in South India, one top master, after he passed away, his body remained 20 days very fresh. So in this case, since we already sort of discuss about that phenomena, so some scientists showing interest, so they put some equipment to dead body on brain, some wires put, and then investigate. So this case, when I heard after he passed away, his body still remained fresh. Then, about I think fourth day, I sent a message. The Dharamsala, one small clinic, the equipment usually is put there. So they immediately sent South India, also close sort of contact with scientists in America. Then they put wires. So the scientist, it is sort of fact. It's fresh. The body remains very fresh. But the brain already dead. So you see, they difficult to explain, but they showing interest the further investigation, you see, these things. So now, Buddhist sort of literature, or the Buddhist text mention the grosser level of consciousness, subtle level, innermost subtle level. So that period, innermost subtle level of consciousness still in the body, with subtle level energy. So that usually we refer Buddha nature. So that something very pure. So on that basis, you see, through practice, eventually eliminate grosser level of as a destructive emotion. So that's Buddhist way. So in any way, what is it? The Buddha, not something permanent. Through his own effort, eventually become Buddha. So because of his own experience, he telling towards his disciple, you also have the potential to become Buddha. Like that. So, but sometimes, you see, without sort of sufficient knowledge about Buddhism, then some Buddhists with blind faith, consider Buddha like creator. That's lack of knowledge, lack of study, like that. Among Tibetan also, you see some without sort of sufficient knowledge, then just is consider Buddha as a God or creator. Sometimes it was foolish Tibetans. Sometimes they also consider me as a creator. Foolish. If I'm a creator, then this, the difficult for knees. Firstly, creator himself, you see, should create better knees. Yes.
During the course of life, what have been your greatest personal lessons or internal challenges which have affected you?
I am Buddhist, particularly a follower of Nalanda tradition, and among top masters of Nalanda institution, Nagarjuna. I really fond his theory, his philosophy. I always consider I'm a follower or student of Nagarjuna and Aryadeva and Chandrakirti, these great masters. So, mainly the concept of shunyata, the Sanskrit word patit samupant. Although this is common, all Buddhists, then the deeper meaning of patit samupant is explained in Nagarjuna's writing. So, over 60 years, I developed interest. Firstly, study, think. As a result, now you see that philosophy really changed my mental sort of state, outlook. So, not easy, difficult, but really very, very helpful. So these over 1,000-year-old Buddhist tradition really very, very effective. And then, as well as altruism, infinite altruism, we call bodhicitta. And Buddhist sort of vipassana practice on the basis of shunyata. And then bodhicitta, infinite altruism. This is my daily main practice and really effect. And not easy. course, anger also, you see, come. And also attachment. And also including sexual desire. Nowadays, almost disappear. Not easy, but possible. You need rigorous effort. Clear? Like that. Yes? Now?
Thank you. What were your principles when you were young, as we are now?
Oh, big differences. As I mentioned earlier, when I was young, I was quite, lazy student. I always prefer play, run away, what call, running here and there. So one day, my shoe outside, while I carry some lesson, shoe remain outside. So another tutor, later he told me, at that time he not told me, later he told me, one occasion is when he come for my lesson, see, he saw my shoe outside. So that shoe, the shoe is sad, worn out, and muddy, because I run. So my tutor, later he telling that story. He laugh. Oh, you at that time, very, very kasuta, naughty boy, not pay sufficient about study. Instead that, running here and there in water with that as a shoe like that. So then gradually, I think age 16, I think some of your age, 16, then I developed more seriousness about study and begin to practice. Then after my examination, that's what, final examination, 1959, March, or end of February. Then soon, come to India, escaped. After I reached India, I restudy these major texts which I study. Then now today, a person, now nearly 80-year-old, whenever I have time, I read, thinking, study. Now these really immense help. I think one practical result is now the lady, 90 years old, directly,
91.
91, other
After 5 years, 90.
yes. So now, very, very fortunate now. I feel it's a great sort of auspicious day. Directly in front of me, a 90-year-old person. So I'm seeking blessing from you. Now this moment, now 79. So I'm hoping with your energy, I may live over 90 years or 100 years. So my point is, when you look at my face, what do you think of my age? One, my Nobel laureate.
She's saying 50.
50. You see, one, my Nobel laureate, my friend, one Nobel laureate, a very close friend. So one day, I think two years ago, you see, one meeting, one gathering. So at lunchtime, we just talk about age. And I told him, now my age, 78 or 77, like that. He say, no, you must be younger. Then I told, I born 1930, correct? No, 35, 33, even you made even older now. 33, you see, the 13th Dalai Lama passed away. Oh, I born 35. So I told him, I born 1935. He still refused. No, this must be wrong. So I think this quite sort of healthy body. I feel, now I realize, it's a peace of mind. Really makes, you see, my body, body element more balance, like that. So therefore, as those scientists, medical scientists say, a healthy mind really important factor for healthy body. So then, some people used to describe me laughing Dalai Lama. I enjoy laugh. Oh, even if the things difficult, complicated, I make distinction. Intellectual level, yes, realize this is difficult. We must make effort. We must overcome these difficulties. But deeper level, emotional level, not much effect. Can remain calm. One time I told this experience to Karsa, then Vice President of America, Gore, Al Gore. One day, you see, when I met, you see, he expressed, you see, a lot of difficulties, and need a lot of research. And he told her that. Then I told him, we human beings, this brain, I think we can make two levels. Intellectual level, knowing these difficulties and try to find methods to overcome these things. But meantime, in emotional level, we can keep calm. So, like that, I told him that. Then he mentioned difficult. He mentioned that. Okay. So this sort of the very fact shows we need more knowledge about our consciousness, about our mind or emotion. Then you can better equipped to deal these problems. So young people, this is one example. Please pay more attention about ancient Indian psychology. Very important. Okay. Next question.
Sorry. Who is your inspiration?
Correct. I think naturally, those Nalanda masters like Nagarjuna and Shantadeva, I think after receive oral transmission and also study, I think really my life changed. And then of course, Buddha Shakyamuni. In modern time, Mahatma Gandhi ji, no question. Really wonderful. And then also I very much impressed the first India's president, Rajendra Prasad. Great lawyer, very humble. Very humble. Really. Then Vice President Dr. Radhakrishna, not that humble. little bit proud as a professor. One occasion, you see. Now, I always say frank. I always say the transparent way. One occasion, he, as a great scholar of Sanskrit, so he recites Nagarjuna's text, from Nagarjuna's text, few shlokas he recites in Sanskrit. Really? Huh? Nelson Mandela also is I met, I think 2 or 3 times. Really, I do admire. Really admire. Nehru, of course, very, very kind to me. And I received a lot of sort of advice from him. But his personal, I have more respect for Mahatma Gandhi ji than Pandit Nehru. Pandit Nehru always some roses put here. Mahatma Gandhi ji like a beggar, isn't it? Oh, the leading person of India's freedom. One of the very important sort of person. But he remained like ordinary Indian. That's important. Like that. So Radhakrishna, I let me finish it with that. One occasion he recited Sanskrit shloka. And I of course, I admire, I respect him. But deep inside, I felt if I ask the explanation of that shloka, I think my position is better than him. We seriously studied that. And then I think Bishop Tutu, he always described me as a mischievous person. So I also returned to him, I consider you also mischievous person. When we come together, we're always joking or teasing each other. Wonderful person. Wonderful person. Like that.
Should we sacrifice our inner happiness to keep others happy, or should we ignore others to keep ourselves happy?
This is clear sort of indication. Lack of knowledge. Make happy other. Firstly, you get immense benefit. Try to make happy other. Sometimes not necessarily very successful. But immediately you develop sort of satisfaction or happy. One story. One occasion in Germany, one organization, they invited me quite late. This is some talk. And then from my hotel, you should go to that place. Usually my practice, whenever I saw person, I always smile. I consider them human being, not necessary to introduce each other. So, passing through street, one young German lady coming. So I smile. I express my sort of, the friendly sort of kazuda, feeling or attitude. I think that sort of positive sort of attitude, smiling, I think creates some suspicion in that young lady's mind. Young lady, you see, I'm like that. Then I also turn like that. So expression of sort of friendly, expression of sort of kazuda, compassion brings some suspicion in that mind. So therefore, you see, your effort make happy to other may not, kazuda, bring happy on other. But you yourself get peace and strong feeling, inner strength. So it is very important. Some people, firstly, the practice of compassion or karuna is part of religious practice. This is not. We, as a human being, as a social animal, in our life, practice of karuna is very important. And karuna is a source of happiness, source of healthy body, source of happy family, eventually source of community. And our aim, our vision, the whole world, 7 billion human beings, if we educate, the ultimate source of happiness is karuna. Then the world can be more compassionate world. Then automatically, world become peaceful world. So this is not just a religious practice. Firstly, secondly, people sometimes get the impression practice of love, practice of karuna is, little kasoda, too much humble, and little kasoda or weakness. No. Anger is sign of weakness. Karuna or forgiveness is signs of strength. So the practice of karuna really brings immense benefit to oneself. Whether benefit other or not depend on their own way of thinking, like that. Okay. Thank you. You give me this opportunity. And also, me personally, when I remain with young people, I also feel I become younger. When I the chat with old people, then I also feel you should go first or I go first. If may I say so. With old people, actually, you see, competing the who go first. Thank you. Now the thing, conclusion. Please, my dear young Indian friends, brothers, sisters, please think from wider perspective at global level. With sort of confidence, Indian can make significant contribution for better world. Thank you.